So here we are for the first time in a couple of weeks. It's been a while since we've done a podcast.
Yeah, we had a little pause there because we got really busy.
Yeah, well, this podcasting, man, it's taken up a lot of time. We have a lot of fans. It's hard to keep up with everything.
Yeah, it's a challenge.
It is. It's a challenge. But we have done a lot of stuff in the last couple of weeks. I can't tell you what all of it was. This last weekend was particularly busy. We had a little party at our house.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a party. We had a St. Patrick's Day party because
yeah, it was a good time.
it was fun. Yeah, with friends, and we've done a lot of stuff with our kids. We had one of our children had a birthday last week, and you worked nights last week.
Oh yeah, that was on a night shift. That
You were on
had
a
me pretty
night
tied
shift.
up. Yeah.
So anyway, here we are. It's Tuesday night, and we just had our Tuesday night date night. We decided to go ahead and do this podcast before we call it a night. And we go on a date every Tuesday night.
That we do at least every Tuesday
Yeah,
night.
dating is an important part of our relationship and our married life because, well, we'll get into why, but it's an important part of our life, our married life, and our routine. And we go on a date at least once a week. We've been married 6 years, almost 6 years, and we go on a date every week still, at least once a week.
At least once. Yeah.
Yeah, and we don't even have kids at home, so we're kind of spoiled.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we do have kids at home. I lie. We do have a child at home. I lie. We do have a child at home. Really 1.5. Anyway, I regress. So tonight we are going to talk about dating in our podcast. Do you want to tell everyone about that?
Yeah. So we've been married a little while, but we still date because it's important to us. But what we're going to talk about tonight is for people who are struggling to figure it out, what would be a good first date?
Hi, I'm Julie.
And I'm the painter.
He's Jason, my handsome, talented, smart, wonderful, and amazing husband. Even though we're very different and I drive him a little bit crazy, together we're a happily married couple living a wonderful life.
So click subscribe and listen in as we put our comical odd couple spin on relationships, life, travel, and everyday realities of growing older together.
Do you think we're experts at that?
Unqualified experts. Yeah.
So I will say, honey, this is a good topic for you because it may come up in our discussion, but you did plan a perfect first date for us. You did.
Yeah.
It was the best first date of my life for sure, and it's not just because we ended up together. It really was a great first date.
No, it was a really fun night. So I did a little research, what makes it, what is a good first date? And the one thing that I learned was I heard that, a good first date is one that allows you and your date to get to know each other, have fun, and see if there's a potential romantic connection. And I think as we start digging into this a little bit, a lot of people and let's face it, this is largely aimed at guys, right? Because guys typically set that first date. It's easy to forget that that's the purpose. And if you think of the purpose being something that allows you and your date to get to know each other, have fun, and see if there's a potential for a romantic connection, that should guide you on how to set that date up a little bit. And I think a lot of people kind of miss out on that a little bit on some of the first date plans that I've heard of.
Oh, I agree. I think we also have to take into consideration now that most people, when they go on a first date, have met online, as we did.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
For sure.
Met online, they typically, not always, but often don't know each other at all, have never seen each other before in person, right? They've been texting.
Oh, yeah, and I think a lot of, we're an older couple, and I think a lot of older couples have a real misbelief that online dating is still this funky thing, but let's be honest, that's how the majority of dating starts today.
Correct. And honestly, I think it's a good way.
Yeah, it opens a whole realm of possibilities for people that they wouldn't otherwise have.
Correct.
You and I would have never met each other had it not been for online dating.
That's right. We would have never met. Well, we can't say that. It's possible, but unlikely.
Okay. Anything you say, you can say what you just said.
Maybe, listen.
The sun rises every day. Well, maybe not forever, but right now it is.
Let's just look at this whole scenario. You could have been driving home from Shelbyville and gotten a flat tire on I-74.
Yeah, man.
And I could have been driving past.
Oh, and I could have went out to change my tire and accidentally got my foot ran over by a car, and I could be laying there on the road, and you almost hit me, slammed on your brakes, and suddenly we met.
And I stayed there till the ambulance got you, and I went with you to the hospital, and then we would have ended up together.
But let's fucking face it, online dating's pretty much how people meet nowadays.
Yeah.
All right.
So that is how we met. Yeah. So go ahead. Let's talk about what's the perfect first date. Did you know this before you planned our date? Did you have all the information?
No, I didn't have it all down. You know, I just did what came to me. You know, I mean, I can't explain it. You know, I just had an idea of what I wanted to do, and I think that's probably a key too. You know, a guy needs to plan a date where it's something he wants to do and will enjoy doing, so that he's comfortable, and it helps to figure out, are we a match or not, you know, instead of putting too much stressful time into trying to figure out what she wants, you know, because 9 times out of 10 she's not even sure what she wants. But you know, like for example, we've talked about how movies and concerts are really not a good idea for a first date,
especially not movies.
Yeah. And that's because those are entertainment forms that dominate your attention. Yeah, they're designed to do that, right? When a movie starts or a concert begins, that dominates your attention. You're watching that band perform, or you're watching that movie to keep up with the plot or whatever. And that keeps you from being able to focus your attention on each other, because the object is to get to know each other and to try to see if there's a potential romantic connection. So really a movie or a concert or something like that is going against that.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Like I said, especially movies. I think movies are horrible dates. So
why?
They're boring. First of all, I don't even like to go to the movies. I mean, I don't mind watching a movie home with you, but we don't even do that often. But I mean, so going to a movie, you're just sitting there, you're not interacting, you have some popcorn. There's just nothing to it. I mean, I guess it's an easy first date. It doesn't require any effort, but I don't like movies as
Plus,
dates.
let's face it, it's dark in a theater, right? And I personally think there's a lot of value in being able to look somebody in the eye, and you can see their emotions and see their your reactions to what you're saying, and you can kind of make a quicker judgment on, how does this person feel about me? How do I feel about this person? Do we actually get along?
So a good first date would then look like what, do you think?
It would be somewhere where, you know, ideally in my mind, you know, a quieter place, a place where you can carry on a conversation. So the challenge is finding a quieter place, a place where you can carry on a conversation, a place where you can get physically close enough to interact, you know, I don't want to use the word intimacy, but more of an intimate conversation between the two of you, but also has a fun element, so that you're having a good time while you're doing it. I mean, like going to a place completely private and isolated and staring each other in the eye would be freaky. So I think that's the challenge, you know, is trying to figure out a fun date idea, something to do with this person you're taking out that still affords you the ability to talk and exchange with one another, to look each other in the eye, and to learn about each other while you're doing whatever it is you're doing.
No, I would agree with you. So, like, you want to tell them where we went on our first date, honey? Because I think it was
why don't
perfect.
you tell the story?
We went to a brewery. We met at the brewery at in the middle of the afternoon, which I'll tell you about that later.
4 o'clock, right?
4 p.m. on a Saturday, yes. 4 p.m. Yeah, Jason told me that we were going to meet at 4 p.m. and if things were going well, maybe we'd get something to eat. So I was like, oh, so if you don't take me to dinner, I'll assume I'll never see you again. So okay, all right, sounds good. So anyway, we met at the I sniffed. Sorry about that. We met at the brewery at 4 p.m. and it was a really cool, fun brewery. It was like a dog brewery here in town. It's called Metazoa. If people live in
Yeah,
Indianapolis, they'll
very
know it's very
very pet
popular.
friendly.
And this is several years ago. It wasn't as popular as it is now, but it was perfect because we didn't do this. But say it had been hard for us to talk. There are like games there and dogs and things that can kind of,
Yeah,
kind of keep your attention. We could have played Connect Four or something, but we didn't. We just
right.
talked and got to know each other, and you got my beer, but it was actually a perfect place. It was a beautiful day, and we sat there and had a couple of beers and chit chatted, and we made it. I made it past the cut to dinner,
Yeah,
and
yeah, absolutely.
we kind of went on a little pub crawl after that.
We did. I mean, we got along well right out of the gate, and then I kind of had some places lined up in my mind that, hey, you know, once we met, and we had like a drink at the first place, I was like, hey, you want to check something else out, and I took you there, and how many places did we wind up going?
We
at?
went to like 4 or 5 places.
Yeah, and the advantage of that is that it keeps you entertained.
Mm-hmm.
It kept both of us entertained. There was no getting bored because as soon as something would slow down, hey, would you like to go here?
It also gave us the opportunity that, if we got tired or if things did kind of start to slow down, we could have ended it. I mean, it was like we could have
Yeah,
just had a couple of drinks and
yeah,
gone to dinner and been like, okay, listen, it was great. It was fun. I'll see you. But, we didn't want the date to end. So it kind of kept going until late. Like we started at 4 in the afternoon. We were out till probably 1 in the morning.
Was it that late?
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
it was a
yeah,
long date.
yeah.
But, yeah, even when we got back to the first place to get my car, we went out and had another drink. Like we didn't want the date to end.
Right.
It was a fun first date. It really was. But you did a great job planning it, and it was a good plan. And believe me, I've been on a lot of first dates that were not that fun. So you're right. I think it's important to
Yeah.
put some thought into it.
So you said something there. You said it was a good plan. And I think that's something that guys miss a little bit. Regardless of what's going on in society, men are still very much expected to initiate a date. And I think a very key part of that is men need to initiate a date and come in with a plan. I think it's a huge mistake to call a lady up and say, hey, would you like to go out? And then start this bullshit.
What do you want to do?
Yeah, start this bullshit.
Yeah.
What do you like? What do you want to do? What do you think about this? What do you think about that? It just, to me, that just puts a lot of stress on the lady that she really doesn't deserve and she doesn't want.
No.
She wants a guy to come in and say, hey, would you like to go out Saturday at such and such a time? We can meet here.
Right.
And from there on, the guy has the plan for the evening.
Right. Which, like we already said, people now are dating online, so you are meeting out a lot. That didn't used to be the case. It used to be you would get picked up for your date for sure. But no, I agree. It's a lot of pressure to say, like, what do you want to do? What do you like to do? Because you don't really know what he wants to do yet or what he likes to do, and you don't know if you should say a nice restaurant. You don't know if you should say, you just don't know. So to just have a plan, and you didn't even. And one of the things I loved about our early dating life, I like it still, but is that you didn't even, I remember we got there to the brewery and you said, is there any particular kind of beer you like? And I was like, oh, I didn't really thought about it. I don't really care. I like to drink, whatever you get me. And then I said, no, I really don't like IPA. I don't like hoppy beer. And it was after that, it was just like, okay, here, why don't you sit here and I'll go stand in line and I'll come back with a couple of beers. You didn't even make me choose what kind of beer I was going to get.
Right.
And it was really nice. I could just concentrate on talking to you and getting to know you. I didn't have to make any decisions. It was really a relief. I didn't even, and then we went to get something to eat. You said, you asked me if there's anything I wanted, but then you were like, is it okay if I just order a couple of things for us? It really just took all the pressure off of me the whole night. I didn't have to come up with a plan at all. And honestly, it was like that the first few months that we dated.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't think you're the only one. I think that's pretty common with women really don't want to have to stress with the details. They want to have fun on the date. And I think it's just I think it's okay that there's because it's been forever, right? There's an expectation that the guy has got that part covered. The woman's job is just simply to try to impress, as he is. He's doing the same thing, and try to get to know each other and determine, is there a opportunity here? Is there a connection here? Right on. So when a guy makes the date and has the plan, the nice thing about that is the woman can relax and enjoy herself and feel free from all that responsibility.
And honestly, guys, that's not just a first date thing. I still like that.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's true. It goes beyond that.
It does. When you have date night, your wife doesn't want the responsibility of planning that, to be like, hey, I'm going to take you out, and we have this little joke between us all the time when I say, like, well, you say, like, we're going to have a date night this weekend, or I might even say, let's have a date night this weekend. Alex not going to be home. Let's do something fun. And then I'll say, well, what are we going to do? And Jason, what do you always say? You always say, I can't tell you.
Yeah, I can't tell you
that.
Because it would ruin the expectation.
the anticipation.
Oh, the anticipation.
You always say, I can't tell you that.
Sorry, I misspoke. Yeah, it would ruin the anticipation.
Yeah, so he won't tell me where we're going until we get there. Still, often.
Yeah.
It's really sweet. It's kind of our cute little thing. But no, I think that it's a lot of pressure. And for women, people don't realize, even just going out to eat on your first few dates, women are weird about going out to eat on dates.
Yeah, dinners are a bit of a challenge. I just thought of this. So one thing about first dates, setting up a first date, and I think guys need to stop and think about it a little bit. Some guys, they'll be really attracted to a girl and they'll go really overboard on first date planning. And I think it's important not to do that. You don't want to, on a first date, there's no need to spend tons of money picking out the finest restaurant in town. You don't show up with roses in your hand.
Oh God, no.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
You don't go overboard because
that's a little scary and stalkerish.
Yeah, it becomes spooky. Women won't respect that you're throwing big money. And in fact, they'll likely interpret that as either one of two things: foolishness or a sign of absolute desperation, which makes you a creep.
What do you have to work up to if you do that on the first date anyway? How are you going to top that?
Yeah, if you spend the farm on your first date, it can only go downhill from there.
Right. Yeah. It can only go downhill from there, for sure.
Some modern women might suggest or even insist on splitting the tab. Let's talk about splitting the tab. I personally believe men should pick up the tab when they're dating.
Oh, I agree with that. And it's not because I would mind. It's just because it's so awkward anyway. But I can't imagine going on a first date with a man. Let's say, I personally would even tell my boys this, but let's say a man over 40.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't buy you a couple of beers and a couple of appetizers? I mean,
right.
What kind of, I mean.
Yeah, I think young guys are worried that, they're trying to make sure they're not hooking up with a gold digger, but I think we need to get over that. I think it's okay. It's a tradition, and it's biology to expect the man picks up the tab. And I don't even think splitting the tab on a first date is even okay. In fact, to me, if there's a splitting of the tab on the first date, to me that's an indication, at least to one or maybe to both of you, that this is not really a sincere date. It's more like a couple friends meeting up.
Right. No, I agree with you. Some people don't feel that way, but I definitely do. I would be and have been completely turned off. I've only had it happen one or two times ever.
And I'll tell you what I don't think should ever happen, and that is that the man suggests splitting the cost. Mm-hmm. I think that's a huge mistake. I think the only thing that can come out of that is you're going to be seen as a freaking cheapskate at best.
No, and you know what? What I found is that, I don't know. I mean, I'm maybe some women would think I'm terrible, but sometimes, I mean, even if you were going out with I don't know. Once you get to be our age, even if you're going out with a man who's a friend just to hang out, you rarely would split. I mean, men just, you should definitely, if you're going on a date and you ask someone to go on a date, you should pay for the date. And I don't know when that really ends. I mean,
Yeah, I don't know if it ever really does, but like I was talking about with the modern thought, because times are changing. I recognize that, but I honestly think that even for women, to suggest, oh, let's split the tab, I need to take half, I think that's a mistake. And the reason is because I think masculine men, they're not going to like that idea, and they're going to feel like they're not being respected as being capable of handling things. And I think if you do that, you're running a risk.
yeah, I'd be interested to know if anyone ever does that. Like, I mean, I guess they do, but I mean, people our age, I never offered. I never even offered, never even thought about offering to be like, oh, do you want me to?
No, you certainly did not, but I do think it's out there.
No, I agree that
But
it
I
is
think
out
it's
there,
a mistake. I think we need to relax on all that and go with the way it naturally flows.
Yeah, I also never even had the opportunity to offer, though. I mean, it was never a question. It wasn't like there was ever any awkwardness. There was never even any awkwardness. I just knew that you.
That's
would
because you
take
always
care of
dated
things.
those studly dudes.
Is that it?
Must be it.
I went on
Oh,
one
sorry,
date. I did
I
go.
snorted.
That's funny. I went on one date where this guy did only one that I can think of. I mean, where I got this guy did offer to. I mean, did say that we, like he did when the waiter came and said like, how do you want to do this? And he did say to split the check, and I was like, you're kidding, right? I mean,
Yeah, that has to be a total turnoff, right?
total.
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't really turned on before that, but that was definitely the death nail in the coffin. Yeah.
Are you sure you weren't like all frothed up and that just killed it?
No, I wasn't. And but that definitely was like, are you kidding me? I mean, yeah, and like I said, so we were at a restaurant, and restaurants are weird for women. People don't realize how much stress we are under, and maybe it's just me, but we don't know like what we should order. You have this whole like silly thing about like, do I order what I really want, or should I order the cheapest thing on the menu? And I personally always take into consideration what I can eat the most neatly. Like I would never order ribs or something, on a first date.
Oh, right, because of the mess.
Because of the mess, yeah. Something that, so you order something that's like easy to eat. But some women, they do kill me. My things are sliding off. These freaking women that will only order like salad. Men don't want that. They don't, do you only want to go out with women that will only order salad on their date?
Yeah, I would prefer somebody. I think what I would prefer is somebody that's comfortable.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you're looking for somebody to be comfortable.
Well, plus there's many things about women who like to eat are better in bed.
No kidding.
Yes. Women who don't eat evidently are suck in the sack.
Really?
I believe that's true.
I'm going to make a note of that.
So you're good with me because I like to eat.
High five on that.
I have a
one.
pie in the oven right now. Just saying.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
no, I like to eat. No, I really do think there is something to that. It's something about. I mean, you have to be comfortable with enjoying pleasure, and part of that's eating, right? I mean,
Yeah.
And so
This is kind of opening the idea for a new episode. So let's shift the topic and to just say, so what is a good date? We kind of talked about some of the challenges, and we gave the example of our date, and I do think, without a doubt, that was a good date for quite a few reasons. I mean, because like what I was talking about earlier, that ability to talk, we were in places where that was definitely there. It was you and I at a table, and you and I getting in a car, going to another place where it was you and I at a table. There was definitely that ability to talk and to share and to get to know each other that night. So
not everyone has first dates like ours. Though.
No. Yeah, I think it was unusual.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we had a real love connection, honey.
Okay. Yeah. All right. No, and I can't argue, right? We wound up married, right? Yeah, in fairly short order, But
We were all touchy feely and sitting close to each other and wanting to get to know each other better.
well,
And,
there's a secret to that too that I did that night. So I think we were in the first brewery, in the Animal Brewery, and before we left that brewery, I remember reaching out and touching you,
yeah, you did.
just putting my hand on you gently,
And it wasn't just like touching my hand. It was
and that was, yeah, it was like this. And what that was, that's a test, that a guy does to see how you react. And from your reaction, I can read where we're at right now. You certainly weren't repulsed, for example. You were very accepting of it, and the night was going well.
Yeah. It was.
So you got dinner.
So I got you.
Yeah. So anyway, I've read a lot. So preparing for the show, I looked a few things up, and like good first date might be cafes, casual bars, which is what we did, right? We went to, you could classify that as a casual bar. We kind of did a brewery crawl. Another suggestion would be like an outdoor activity, like a picnic in a park.
Oh, yeah.
You suggested that. That's actually a pretty good idea.
Especially, I'm telling you this, especially if a guy plans that, if he packs some little cheese and crackers and snacks and a bottle of wine and says,
that would be a good one. I never thought of that.
That's
that would
impressive. I would be impressed if someone did that.
Yeah.
The thing is, if you didn't like them, then, it would be kind of weird. But
yeah.
But it's cute. It's a cute idea, I'm telling you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I have seen, well, go ahead with the.
Yeah. No, I guess then, I was just thinking of what you said. I guess meeting in a cafe or a bar or something like that, you got an easier out if it's not working. But we'll talk about the whole idea of if it's not working towards the end. But we'll save that one for a minute. But restaurants, let's talk about restaurants, because you've already kind of led up to this a little bit. You've jotted a few ideas out there. Restaurants are a classic first date. It's like a first date every guy wants to jump at. Let's go out to dinner Friday night. Let's go out to dinner Saturday night as a first date. But put a little thought into this one. First off, you don't want to go fast food. That's a huge mistake. But you also don't want to go over the top to the most highest priced, ridiculous places in town.
I just want to suggest also, don't go someplace where you have to walk up to the counter to order. You want to go someplace where someone waits on you.
I absolutely agree. Maybe not everybody's the same, but I won't hardly even go to a restaurant that where you walk up to the counter and order. But anyway, the best restaurant choices are going to be places that aren't too noisy. Some restaurants are just absolutely loud. You can't carry on a conversation without yelling. So it would be a place that's not too noisy. You need to be able to have a comfortable conversation. But one problem with restaurants for a first date is that many women are not really comfortable eating in front of a guy that they just met. It's just a fact. So it may not be the most comfortable date setting for a first-time meeting. And I think a lot of times guys are oblivious to this fact. But women know this, right? It's going to be uncomfortable because, like you said, what do you do if he orders you a plate of ribs?
Well, he's not going to do that, but don't go to a barbecue place on your first date. My advice. But
right.
But no, I'm going to give some, and this just came to me.
Yeah,
I'm
let
just
it
giving
roll.
some advice. First of all, men, if you're going to take a woman to a restaurant for a first date, do two things. Two things that I think are essential and will get things off to a good start. Ask her if she wants a drink and order drinks for both of you. Don't make her feel uncomfortable about are you going to get a drink? Am I going to get a drink? Just fucking get a drink and order a drink for her and order an appetizer. You pick one, order. Say, is there anything on here you don't like? Is it okay? I'm going to order us an appetizer. Because if the waiter comes and says, do you guys want an appetizer? Even with married couples, there's this awkward, you look at each other like, oh, I don't know. Do we want an appetizer? You know what I mean? It's like, just go ahead, order an appetizer, order 2 drinks. That way you can sit there and get to know each other a little bit while you're figuring out what you're going to have for dinner.
I kind of do like the idea of asking, hey, is there anything here that you don't like?
I agree.
Yeah, because if she looks at it and says, if she starts rattling off too many things she doesn't like, you just kick her out and move on.
It's true. And plus, let me just tell you, like for instance, on our second date, remember we ordered Scotch eggs, and I don't like hard boiled eggs. I like
Right.
almost everything.
I didn't know that at the time.
No big deal though. I ate one, and that's the thing. It's like you deal with stuff on your first few dates, and they weren't bad by any stretch in a million years, but that was a meal where we just kind of had appetizers and drinks anyway. But
that was the first red flag, right? She doesn't like Scotch eggs.
I don't like hard boiled eggs, and I like almost everything.
Yeah.
I like a lot of. I'm a good eater, honey. We already talked about that. So, yes. So order the drinks, order an appetizer, and then I would say just order your own. Order your own entrees on the first date. It's weird. I observe people all the time when I go to restaurants. I'm always looking around at people trying to figure out their story. Right?
Yeah, you are, man. Yeah, we'll go to a restaurant and Julie will be, if she sees a couple come in, she'll kind of be eyeballing them a little bit, and she'll nudge me and say, "Oh, I think they're on their first date," and
Or sometimes I'll say,
and I think sometimes you're right.
Oh, a lot of times I am, because you can kind of tell when they stand up and say, "Oh, hey," I mean, you can kind of tell that. Every once in a while, I'm wrong, but I do that not just even with. Sometimes they'll be like, two guys or say out to dinner, and I'll kind of say to Jason, "You think they're a couple? You think they're having a work dinner?"
Right,
because I just always am trying to figure out people's story. I don't care. I'm pretty.
It's fun.
Yeah, it's kind of fun, but I can usually tell when people are on a first date, kind of that awkward factor, and they don't know what to order, and it's kind of cute, and they, I'm like, "Oh, look, they're sitting close together," but I can also sometimes say like, "Oh, this is not going well." Yeah, it's kind of funny, but.
Yeah. So to sum up the restaurant dating thing, I think we need to recognize the fact that most people nowadays, you're meeting your date online. So when you go on your first date, it's really your first time ever meeting that person. So when you're putting the lady in a restaurant environment, that's not the least stressful environment in the world for her to be in. She's worried about what she looks like when she's eating. She doesn't want to be a pig, but she doesn't want to be disrespectful. There's all kinds of things going on there. So you got to give that put a little thought into it. I'm not saying that a restaurant date is a horrible idea. I mean, there could be much worse ideas, but maybe not as good as some of the other ideas, cafes, something more light.
Appetizers and drinks.
Yeah.
I never really put that much thought into this part of it, but you're right. It's like, you don't know when you go on a first date. Does she have dietary restrictions? Is she a weird eater? Is she weird about eating? Because there's a lot of women that are weird about eating. I don't know. It's just restaurants are more complicated than you think. It takes a little thought, and you have to definitely have some place where it's easy to talk. And I think men really need to take it upon themselves to make sure the woman feels comfortable if you go to a restaurant. Like, hey, this is one of my favorite places. They have awesome this, but like I said, go ahead and order an appetizer.
And I think that's where the risk lies for the most part, is with the lady. I men tend to underestimate that end of it, how she feels in the restaurant. They're just thinking, hey, this is good food. This would be a great place to go.
Yeah. And they're trying to, they're trying to make a good impression too. And honestly, I don't know, are they self-conscious about eating on their first date? They're afraid they're going to get food on their shirt.
I can't speak for all guys, but I would say probably on average, not nearly like what ladies are.
I do remember we went to a ramen place pretty early in our dating, probably like our third, fourth date.
Yeah, let's go slurp some noodles.
And I was a little self-conscious about eating that in front of you, but it was pretty early in our dating. Yeah.
Well, I worked with you.
I would not suggest that on a first date.
So we were in Venice, Italy, and they had the coolest thing there, right? So we kind of discovered how young people there typically handle early dating, and it's an awesome idea. In their culture, they have a lot of restaurants throughout that city that sells what they call ciccati.
Is that what it's? Yeah, ciccati.
Yeah, ciccati. And basically what ciccati is, it's just a small bite-sized snack. Yeah, and they're typically fancy, right? It could be anything. It could be a little fancy little sandwich piece, or we saw like a special little deviled egg with funky toppings on it.
One of them was like a little cup with some little fried seafood in it. They
Yeah,
had
I mean,
everything. Yeah.
all kinds of different things in these very small, bite-sized pieces.
But almost every bar had them.
Yeah, and
Or
it's
restaurant,
called chicate.
Yeah.
As you walk through the city, you can see it you'll have a restaurant, but they'll have a little front counter with this chicate. And what the couples do is, and what the young people do, they can just walk up without getting a table. They don't have to have a reservation or anything like that. They just kind of walk through the city together. They meet up at a place. They go in. They order a couple pieces of chicate, a couple glasses of wine, and they don't even sit down. They can stand out on the front sidewalk even.
Sometimes there's little tables and things for you to have it at.
Yeah,
but,
and they just share some chicate. They drink a little wine. They chat for a while, and when they're done with that, they can walk to the next little restaurant down the street and do the same thing and just kind of make a night of it. And what it does, it kind of replicates what we did with the pub crawl.
Yeah. Of course, there are restaurants right next to each other. You don't have to go
Yeah,
far.
yeah, because in Venice it's kind of
it's
concentrated.
everywhere,
Yeah,
but
yeah, but I just thought that was a fabulous idea. Yeah, I mean, it's a common thing they do when they go out. They just bounce from one restaurant to the next, sampling chicate, having drinks, and getting to know each other.
yeah, I don't think it's just dating. It's just they just meet after.
Anybody can do it.
They just meet after work.
Yeah,
and,
anybody can do it.
it's kind of their girls'
But,
night
but
out.
I could
every day.
imagine that's how a lot of people wind up hooking up. Yeah.
Yeah, that was actually really fun when we did that too.
Oh yeah,
it was a fun date
we
night
went
for
on a
us.
little,
we went on a chicate.
yeah, we went on a little tour learning about it, and it was a great night. Yeah, if I was a young guy in Venice, that's what I would do for dating.
That's how you would,
absolutely.
That's how you would run your online dating.
That's how I would run my program. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And but our culture here in the U.S. really doesn't have a lot of that. It's a great concept. It gives them plenty of time to talk and be able to walk on to the next place to try something new. To keep the evening entertaining. As you go from one place to the next, and you're trying different foods. It's a great idea.
So what else? What if you wanted to do an activity on your first date?
Well, I've heard the suggestion of like outdoor activities. Yeah, one thing that would help, is if you knew each other well enough, like if you had communicated online well enough to know something you have in common. Like say you both like hiking. Maybe you could plan a little, let's go on a little date. We'll do a little 1.5 mile hike in this little state park or something.
With the picnic.
Yeah. Now, it might be a little freaky, though. I think a lot of women would think, yeah, I'm not going out in the woods with this son of a bitch I've never met.
That's true. That is true.
Yeah.
Actually, that is true.
Yeah.
And plus, I think women do like to kind of dress nice when they go on their first date and should.
That's true. Now, it may not, but there are probably some people out there that are totally cool in outdoor gear. It's not really us, but I'm sure that's the case. But anyway, if you knew each other well enough, that would make it easier. But I think nowadays most people really don't, because we do meet online. And, and I think dates are typically made in fairly short order. So you really don't know each other. So really the first date, the whole purpose of that date is getting to know each other a little better so you can figure out who each other is.
Go ahead.
So I think you have to do a little prep work. It would be wise to do. I know you don't have to, but it would be wise to do a little prep work. Think about what you would like to ask your date, for example, when you go out. A date can get awkward really quick if you don't have anything to talk about. So I think really the guy and the woman both. It would be benefit if put a little thought into what would be a good thing to ask your date. And examples. And I think I can't remember things that I talked to you about when we dated, but you could ask about what's your family situation like? Where did you come from? What's your background? And what do you think of this? What do you think of that? Whatever those questions are, put a little thought into that and come into the date armed with some of those questions to kind of keep things rolling.
I think that's really important. And I also think that it's really impressive to women, to both people, but that you want to know about someone. I think people don't ask enough questions about one another anymore. And what was that? We saw a journalist that just wrote a book about listening and asking questions about people. And it was really, really interesting. But I agree with that. People don't do that enough. And it can be, there can definitely be awkward silences on dates. I mean, yeah. So think about the things that you want to know about each other and ask questions. And it doesn't have to be anything stupid like who's your favorite superhero, or if you had a superpower, what would it be? I mean, people, that would be okay, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's a little awkward. I mean, I think you'll read things online that tell you to ask shit like that, but it can be simple, But I think the bottom line on it, the thing to remember is most people in the world really enjoy talking about themselves.
That's true.
So all you have to, it's really easy. All you have to do is ask a simple question about them. Tell me about your family situation, or tell me what your childhood was like, or tell me what your college, where you went to college and how that was, what that was like for you. Or, like if you told me you were a hairdresser, for example, well, tell me what it's like to do that job. Things like that, just to open up that avenue for them to start talking about themselves. And you may not really give a shit about that job, but in the process of them telling about you, they're telling you about themselves, and you're learning more about them, and it just opens conversation.
For sure. It's another thing that kind of takes the pressure off too, honestly. If someone's asking you questions, you don't have to think about what to talk about. It's nice.
And I think really the more you learn about that person that you're on the date with, the easier that conversation becomes.
And honestly, sometimes your first date does not lead to a second date. I mean, if you're right.
No, and I think you should be okay with that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's what the first date is for. It's to decide, to make that decision. And you're not the only one making the decision. There's two at play here.
Right.
And I think it's important not to be false, just to be who you are. And I mean, everybody's trying to put on their best self. But at the same time, don't lie. Don't make shit up. Because should a relationship evolve, they're going to figure you out.
Yeah, and if you do all the right things and they're like a big dud, then, you'll know.
Wah, wah, wah. Fail.
Which that does happen sometimes.
Oh, yeah, it happens. Yeah, absolutely. So we talked about a good example of a date, using our first date. Do you got any bad examples? I mean, you gave kind of one, right? The guy wanting to split the check.
Definitely that was a bad one. The guy wanted to split the date, and I don't know. There've just been...
You're thinking of something good.
Well, no, it wasn't on the first date, but I went out with this one guy that definitely was going nowhere. And within the first few, but it was like he was fun to go have a beer with. So I went out with him a few times, but like less than 5. But within like the first 3 or 4 dates, remember, I think I told you he asked me if I would let him put his car in my name because he had a DUI.
Yeah.
Like, woo, red flag.
Yeah, and the truth is, though, in dating, that's the kind of shit you're trying to fish out, right?
It's like,
so you didn't kind of fish it, and that's the truth. That's the way it works, right? The first date is getting to know each other to see if there's a potential for a romantic connection. Your second date, your third date, your fourth, they're just expansions on that, digging a little deeper, learning more. And what you found out was that there's some big red flags here. And
I knew on date 1 that was going nowhere.
Yeah.
But he was pleasant enough and funny enough that I didn't mind having a beer with him again. Yeah, kind of thing. But yeah, I knew on date. Yeah, I'm trying to think that was just funny. It made me... That was one of the funnier moments, for sure.
Yeah. So one of my example, and I've told you before, but just for the viewers, I went out with a woman at first date, and on that first date, as it went in, on, she confessed that she had gotten her felony reduced to a misdemeanor. and she had anger management classes on Tuesday nights. And I'm just thinking, in my mind, all I'm thinking is of her slashing the tires on my BMW and key scratches down the side of it. And I'm like, I couldn't get her home fast enough,
Oh, you picked her up
Yeah.
on your first date? You didn't pick me up on our first date.
No, I learned that that's not the thing to do. I didn't realize that. Nowadays, a lot of women get freaked out by that.
Does she live in a trailer park? I'm just curious.
It was a double wide.
Seriously?
It wasn't just a trailer.
Oh, seriously? It was a trailer? No joke?
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Did she live in a trailer?
No.
Oh, well, maybe.
You're being awful judgmental about trailer dwellers.
Well, you're right. I was just gonna say I don't want to insult any of our trailer park viewers.
Just because she was potentially dangerous, doesn't mean she lived in a trailer.
You're right. Yeah. That's true. That is true.
So this leads to so let's close with this one. So probably the toughest thing, if somebody asked for advice on this one, I'm not your expert. It happens to everybody. But how do you handle a date if there's no connection? You know, and I've been there, right? I'm on a date, and within short order, I realize there's zero connection here. How do you handle it?
Well, we've talked about this a little bit. We've disagreed. I think for the most part, unless it's just horrendous, unbearable, you just suffer through it and say thanks. Thanks. I had a nice time. And that you go your separate ways.
And then you just refuse to return phone calls, or
pretty much. I mean, are you?
Well, I think that's the risk the women have, right? Because men typically initiate, so I would imagine women would continue to receive calls and texts and messages, where guys don't have to worry about that so much.
And honestly, then you have two choices. You can be a mature adult and say, I had a nice time the other night. I don't really see this going anywhere. And I've not very often have I done that. It's hard for me. But I actually did have a date that happened. It was just I think that's the mature thing. The other thing is you can lie and say, yeah, I was a widow, so I could always use I just don't think I'm ready to date. I think I'm doing this I think I did this too soon, I think I might need to take a break from dating or something like that. The other thing is, if it's really a horrible date, you can do the old fashioned thing where you can go to the bathroom and call a friend and say, hey, can you, call me and
pick me up out the back door.
I was going to say, call me and, tell me there's an emergency at home or something, so I can get out of here. This is absolutely a disaster, know. And certainly if you feel like you're in danger, I don't know that I've ever felt like I was in danger on a date, but.
Yeah, I had it happen a couple different ways, an example where I knew there was just zero connection right out of the gate, within 15 minutes of the meeting. And I could tell that she knew there was no connection too. She's looking at her watch, trying to figure out how long she's got to stay, and I'm like, yeah, this is going to get miserable. I basically just announced that, you can leave anytime you want and I'll pick up the tab. Don't worry about it. And she seemed, I don't think she was happy, but she seemed relieved a little bit that let's just end the date.
Really?
But I've also had it happen the other way where there was no real connection, but it wasn't horrible. So we just kind of continued the date, and then that was just, after that date, there was nothing more out of it.
Yeah, the worst is when there's no connection, but one person realizes it and the other doesn't. Like the guy that wanted to split the check. I already knew, even before he wanted to split the check, that I was never going to go out with him again. And then we split the check, and then we were in the same car. So then and it was just so awkward. It's just like, no, I don't remember what I said, but it really was just like, no, I need to get home. My kids are home, kind of thing, but that is a terrible, awkward situation. I hate that.
Yeah.
Everyone hates that.
Yeah.
So
So I think at the end of the day, everybody that goes out on a date wants it to work out.
well, let's end on a positive note. Like, say you have a good date. What do you think the best thing is to do? For instance, don't you think if say you have a good date, what should you do then? Like, you think it's okay? I mean, I personally think it's okay for women to like send you a note on the way home, like, "Hey, I had a really good time tonight. Thanks for everything." But is that too pushy, or is that too?
That's actually a fantastic idea. So you want my honest thought on that?
Yeah.
So
and should you do it that night or wait a day? Or
it doesn't matter. So I think from the women's side, if they had a great time and would like to go on another date, that I don't think a lot of women are willing to do that, but I think it's a wise because a really slick guy, what he'll do when he gets that message, he'll set the second date up immediately, right then.
not right then.
I would.
You didn't. You didn't do. I mean, I was sent it like when you were driving home that night. Like, hey, I had a really nice time tonight. Thanks for everything.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, like you were driving home from our date.
Oh, I can't believe I didn't set the second date up then.
When you were driving, like home from our date at 1:00 in the morning.
Maybe that's the problem. Maybe I didn't see it right away or something.
But then after that, I do think once you do that, then you wait. Like once you do that, whether you do it that night or the next day, then you wait for a response.
Yeah, and I think a guy will wait too.
And I think you did probably respond like, I had a good time too, or yeah, me too,
Yeah.
or something. I don't think you.
I had to have responded. I
I'm
can't
pretty sure.
imagine I didn't.
But you didn't set up another date.
No, but what I would typically do is I would give you a little time, like a couple of days before reaching out again.
Yeah.
And there's a reason for that, because you already shared that you had a good time, and I know you did. I was there, and I could read you. I want to give you enough time to sit back and think about me and wonder about it and think. And I even would like for you to say to yourself, why hasn't he called me back?
Yeah.
That's
a little bit of a game play.
It is. It is a little bit of a game. But then what I do after a couple of days, I reach out.
Yeah, and you did.
And you're happy. And as soon as we start talking, I set the next date.
Right, you did.
And what I didn't do, if you think about it, I didn't talk much. I didn't text a lot. I didn't send repeated texts. What are you doing? How's your day? How's your day going? What are you doing now? To me, that's completely inappropriate. I think dating for guys, they really need to use their phone to make appointments.
In the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely. Early in a relationship, your phone, all you're going to do by sending a bunch of texts to a woman that you're trying to go out with is talk her out of dating you. That's all you're going to do with it. There's no upside to it. You're better off leaving some silence, setting the next date, and doing it in person.
I was going to say, getting to know each other in person.
In person. It's so easy. And face it, early in that relationship, it's tender. The emotions are on high. There's a lot of, what does he think? How does he feel? What does she think? What does she feel? It's very easy to misconstrue a text, to imagine all kinds of vocal inflections in those words that aren't there. Your best bet, your communication is in person.
I agree. Plus, it just gets to be if he texts you, then you text him, and then you're like a couple hours later, oh, I haven't heard. I mean, it's ridiculous when you're to that point where you're like, I haven't heard from him in a couple of hours. It's like he's freaking busy, and if he's not, he should be. So, yeah, I think I thought that texting was one of the most complicated pieces of dating. From the time I dated and from the time I dated when I was in my 30s until when I was in my 50s, I just didn't get it. I didn't get having text conversations when you're getting to know someone, or having someone text you every day but not ask you out, or and there's this weirdness like, do I really know this person? Do I not know this person? It's very
Well, I think it's one of the challenges that young people face today is they believe that that's this great communication method. And it is a good communication method, but not for this purpose. It's really not. Now, one thing about reaching out and sending a message that I think guys need to be aware of. You've gone out with a lady. Maybe you've gone out with her twice. And you're trying to be cool and you're trying to give a little time between the dates. If she reaches out to you, that means only one thing. That means she wants your presence. That is time to set a date.
if you want to see her again. Yeah,
Absolutely.
don't ignore her.
If
yeah.
you want to see her again, that is time. If she has reached out, that's going out there for a lady. She's reached out. She wants your presence. It's time to set the next date.
Yeah, you were really good about never making me get to that point too much. I mean, but after 3 or 4 weeks, I felt comfortable doing it a little bit, reaching out a little
Yeah,
bit.
and when you did, it netted good results.
Yeah.
Yeah, I set the next date. Because I knew you're reaching out, that means you want to see me.
And here we are.
And here we are. If you like the podcast, do us a big favor and subscribe. We're trying to build a subscriber base so we can, and it really helps us out a bunch. So click subscribe, join on so you don't miss our next show. We got a lot of good ideas coming up because Julie is full of good ideas.
I am. I am.
Yeah.
So we'll
All
see
right.
you soon.
All right. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you.
Bye.